Welcome to a new video in my Taphome and home automation series. In this video, I'm just going to show you an interesting integration. I'm just going to reuse some of the things that I made videos on in the past, namely InfluxDB and Grafana. So what I want to do now is I want to integrate Taphome into these environments as well. So I'm going to create you an integration where I'm going to expose data from my Taphome server. So I'm going to expose some device information, for example, temperatures, light status, presence status. I'm going to read this information in Node-RED, and this Node-RED is just basically going to transfer this data over InfluxDB. So it's going to save all these changes in a database. So we can, have temperatures, status changes, pretty much anything which is happening in Taphome to be stored in a time series database in InfluxDB, and then we can build some dashboards on that data using Grafana. So here I was just focusing on some really simple stuff. So I'm getting temperature readings from my thermostat, and I can, show this in a graph. I can calculate maximum and minimum temperatures based on the window that I select. And what I also do is I'm looking at the presence sensor and, for example, calculating how many times a certain presence was selected. So how many times I was setting the system to away within this period. So here in this video, I'm going to take you through the whole integration. So first of all, how you expose devices using the built-in TCP integration from Taphome, how we are going to listen to this TCP traffic in Node-RED, and how we are going to turn this information into line protocol in InfluxDB, basically just going to insert data into the InfluxDB database. And then finally, once we have some data in, we can also create these simple dashboards that you can see on the screen. And before we start diving into the integration, I just wanted to show you the documentation, and this is where I started as well. And then if you scroll sort of all the way down, then it has a section on the third-party integration. And actually, I'm going to use this integration protocol here. So there is an API, which I think is more suited to connect to like remote services, but I'm finding this integration protocol a little bit easier to use because it's a simple either UTP or a TCP protocol where you send very simple commands and then you get some text back of the current values, and then you can see all the details here. But I think I'm just going to go through it anyway. So we will see how this gets set up. And there is a fair amount of information, but I think once you start configuring, it makes more sense. And I don't know how updated the documentation is, but it looks like that there are some devices that are not supported in this integration yet. So if you have, for example, impulse counter, you won't be able to get that value. Maybe this would get supported in the future. Okay, so let me look at my. So let's look at my device, okay, so I'm going back to the settings, and this is going to be under exposed devices as well. And so far we have the Modbus TCP, and I'm just going to add a new interface. And I still can't decide whether it should really be UDP or TCP. I think, the way I'm going to implement it, it can be either way, but I'm just going to select TCP for now. And for the interface, you have an interface ID. You have this auto send push all option, which means that every time the value changes, it's going to push it through this TCP channel. And it also has some headers, and then you can specify the TCP port. So I think I'm just going to leave this on default. And mainly I'm going to play with this auto send feature, because what I'm planning to do is for sensors, I will query. So basically I will pull the sensor values on a specified interval that I'm going to control from Node-RED, and then for anything else like inputs, I'm just going to send the auto send. So for now, we can add some devices. I think I'm going to add my thermostat, and I'm going to add my second thermostat as well. I don't think I have anything else at the moment. Oh, maybe I can add the presence as well. Okay, so these are the 3 devices that I'm going to add, and oops, it is somewhat similar to Modbus that each of the device gets an ID. So you can see that the backup thermostat is 1, the kitchen is 2, and the presence is 3. And if I go back, then my integration is created, and I'm going to test this with PuTTY. So my server address is 213, and then the port is going to be 10,000, and I can set the connection type to raw. So this is my TCP connection, and you have a couple of options. You can send help, and it's going to give you the help. You can also do list, and it's going to show you all the devices. So you have device 1, 2, 3, and these are the thermostats. Sorry, the devices that we have just configured here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. So you can see it here, and then you can just do get one, and then it will give you the values. So obviously this is a thermostat, so it has always the first value is the device ID, and then the second ID is going to be the status. So it is 0, which says the device is okay. And what else? Yeah, so we have temperature, ambient temperature, no, set temperature, ambient temperature, and what is minus 300? I guess that's the range. Yeah, maximum, that's minimum, that minus maximum. Okay, fine. And if I ask the second device, that's the second device. And if I ask the third device, then again, its ID, the status is 0. Yeah, so the device is okay. And then the state is 0 as well. And if let me just see that it works. Yeah, if I switch it to away and get 3, then now the value is 1. Actually, it makes sense not to have this device here, because I think it would make sense to have this value to be pushed. So I'm just going to delete present. So I will have 2 values that I can use. Okay, and to be honest, I think before I go ahead, maybe I can do the whole the whole Node-RED side of it as well. So if I load my Node-RED editor, and I think I'm just going to have a brand new tab. Then, yeah, I haven't done anything Taphome yet, so I think I'm just going to create a new flow. So I'm going to use TCP. Oops! How did I do that? Oh, Control Space. Okay, I didn't know about this. So I'm going to use TCP connection. I'm going to do a TCP request, and I'm going to inject 2 different messages. One is going to be get one. So the message is get one, and that's going to be the backup thermostat. And the other message is going to be the kitchen thermostat, and it's going to be get to. And we are going to connect to 168.1.213 and port 10,000, and I think we are going to use strings. Okay, I'm not sure what's going to be the correct one, but let's hope the default is going to work for us. So it's going to be a no push, and I'm just going to send all the responses to a debug node. Well, I have to admit I had to pause the recording because I couldn't figure out what's not working in a flow, and it was very simple. So I created these nodes to send the text get one and get two to the TCP socket. And by the way, I needed to configure this so it waits until the response has an end line or line feed character. So this is how you would set it. then it was still not working, and I couldn't really figure out. So actually, I opened a thread on Node-RED forum, and it turns out that I was missing the line feed at the end of the message. So I just needed to add this change node, which is going to add a line feed character, because otherwise, you know, the Taphome was just standing there and waiting for basically the enter key. So anyway, it is working now. So if I send it to the backup thermostat, I get this, and if I send the kitchen thermostat, I get the other message. So I think what we can do now is we can create a switch node. Oh no, first of all, let me create a function node, because I mean, I think what I want to do is I definitely want to split this. So the message.payload equals message.payload.split, and I want to split by spaces. So maybe I could have done it with the change node as well, but yeah. And then once we have this done, I'm going to put this into a switch node. So that's going to be, and then here I'm going to decide what sort of device it is. So so that's going to split it into an array, and as I said, the first value, so this is payload 0, is going to be a that's going to be the device. So it can be either 1 or 2 for the time being. And if that is the case, then I want to create a data. So I think what I'm going to do here is I wonder if I should do maybe I can do a change node. Okay, I made up my mind. I'm not sure how you can use I'm pretty sure there is a way to combine JSON and the line protocol as well, but I'm not really sure. So I'm just going to create a record, and that's going to be an empty array, and the record push, and I'm going to insert a okay, and I lost the information that I had, so let me just go back to my Grovat. Oh, okay, I use this. Okay, let me copy all this. And I'm going to clean up the code a little bit. The reason I'm doing this as a separate code because, well, I mean, if you're using multiple thermostats, it's going to look the same. But if you're using different devices, then it will have a different set of fields anyway. So influx line protocol. Okay. So we said that's going to be device data, and the device is going to be backup thermostat, and then we will have a status which is payload 1, and set temp, which is going to be payload 2, and temperature, which is going to be payload 3, and then we can delete the rest. As I said, we can delete the rest. Good. Yeah, and data is an empty record. We have pushed the single record into data. We return it in the message.payload, and that should be it. And we have no errors, so that's good. So let me do this one, and I copy, which is going to be almost exactly the same, but it will be a kitchen thermostat. Okay, and I can let's push this into a debug node for the time being, and then let me mute my phone so I don't get the pings. And if I clear my thing, then something is not working. Oh, damn, copy and paste. Measurement device data, tags, device, fields. Oh, yeah, that works. And that's the second one. Oh, all looking good. So I think what I want to do now is what I usually do is let's say these temperatures don't change. So I'm planning to pull this or start its influx, inject every 15 minutes, and even if there is no change within that 15 minutes, I don't want the additional data to go to influx. So I can just do it in, I think it's in, I never remember if it's a delay or rate limit or messages. No, it's not the rate limit, but it's a filter. Block unless value changes. Okay, so if we get exactly the same data, then we are going to block it. Block. Duplicate. Okay, so for both of them, I'm just going to block the duplicate data, and now we can pipe this information into an InfluxDB. And again, I'm just going to copy and paste the one that I have here. Okay, that's not going, because we will be using a different bucket. And that's going to be the Taphome bucket, and the bucket is going to be called Taphome. And yeah, and that should be it. And I can trigger this to start every 15 minutes. 15 minutes, and also the same for the other one. Interval, and then 15 minutes. And if I deploy, then nothing happens. Oh, well, maybe something happened, but I removed the debug node, so we can't really see. So maybe I'm just going to trigger this again, just to be on the safe side. And if I pull, no, actually, let me go back to this other browser window. So if I start my node, and if I start InfluxDB, so we can see what's been loaded. So explore Taphome. Yeah, we have device data. And then if I select the device, then let's select both of them, and let's select temperature. Ooh, what? Wait, whoa. Oh. Okay. That's bad. So these are float values. And now this is integer. So this is parse int, and then parse load. And now it's going to be and now we have an issue because we have pushed a data in which has some string values, and the next data is not going to go in because now it is in a different format, sorry, a different value type. Parse float. Parse float. Int float. Okay. Okay, good. So we have done that. So now we need to get rid of the data that we have in the database, which cannot be done easily, but it can be done by logging into the InfluxDB, and we are going to delete that data. Okay, and I can never remember what is the correct format, so I have a text file. Yeah. So influx delete, and then I'm going to delete everything which is in the bucket Taphome, and I'm going to start between 20. Oh, actually yeah, okay, let's do that. And if I submit, yeah, we don't have results, and now we are just going to trigger both of them. And oh yeah, so now we can have we see the temperature here, and you can see that we have the different device, and of course I can add the status and the set temp as well, and then you see the status and the set temp. Okay, so we don't have an awful lot of data, so there's no point creating a graph on this one just yet. But what we can do now is we can go back to Taphome, because I also want to show you how you can create stuff that will trigger whenever there is a change. So for that, I'm going to create a new integration protocol. It's also going to be TCP. And to be honest, I'm not sure why I have why this is also interface ID 1, but it works. So for this one, I'm going to include the push all, and I'm just going to put this on 10,001, and I will start adding devices. So I would add the kitchen light, the well, I think I'm just going to use lights for this, living room light, and also you're going to use the presence. So it's done. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Where is my Taphome? Okay, so I go back to save the changes. Yeah, and okay, I can exit from here, and I can show you how this works. So if I go to PuTTY, and so that's the IP of my server. So if I set it to a row again, so I don't have to do anything, but if I go back to my Taphome, and if I go to devices, let me just make this smaller. So I think the first device, maybe I do this one. So I think the first device was the kitchen light. You see, first device status 0, and now that's the status 0, and the state is 0. And if I turn it on, then it becomes 1. And then for the same for the living room light, so if I turn it off, that's device 2. 0 means okay, and 0 means the second 0 means that it's off. If I turn it on, then it becomes on, and I can change the vacation as well. For some reason it comes twice. Maybe this is related to the fact that it's in manual mode. I'm not sure. But anyway, we are going to get rid of duplicates, so I'm not too worried about that. So this is how it works when it is configured in the way that you can see it now in in this push version. Okay, that looks good. So what I'm going to do now is, I think I'm going to, pretty much replicate this whole flow. So I'm going to copy and paste, and so I'm going to call this just lights. And here we don't need to do anything because, well, we are not going to trigger this one. And also that means that we are just going to use a different node. So that's going to be TCP in, and that would listen on a port. Well, we need to connect to a port. So 10,001. Yeah. And then hopefully this is going to work. Well, we have to play around with this a little bit. Okay, let me zoom in a tad. Okay, so it is connected to the port. Well, what was the I'm not sure what was that error message. Well, at least it wasn't here. So let me just go back to Taphome as well, make this a little bit smaller. And if I change, oops, no. If I change this one, then nothing happens. So I just need to stream of thing delimited by this, and hopefully that's going to fix it. I'm not reusing these nodes a lot, this TCP node. Okay, so there was another cut here because it took me a little bit more time to figure out how this works. For some, well, still, it feels a little bit counterintuitive for me because for the normal TCP out node, whenever you configure it, it says it's connected. So, the traffic should be coming through. But what I had to do is I had to do the same TCP request node. So point to the new port 10,001 and then say that it's going to return string. But in this case, keep the connection open because we will want to receive data from this port continuously whenever some changes happen. And then also, in order to get this socket or this connection up and running, you actually have to send some data in, which Taphome is just going to ignore. Well, at least I'm going to send something in which Taphome won't be able to process. So I just created this very simple inject node which sends in a timestamp, and so I'm going to set this to inject whenever let's say the server starts. So it will start listening on port 2001. So if I do this, it says it's connected. So definitely the connection is up and running. And if I change anything on Taphome, now you can see that we start receiving the values. And then the same for kitchen. And then, yeah, we are getting the 2 for the presence. Okay, so this looks good. So now what we can do is we can do the same trick what we have done before. And here I'm just going to copy the node as well. So again, we can see how this works. So still we are going to split the message by comma, and then we are going to look at the devices. So we will have device 1, 2, and 3. And we're still going to create or generate the protocol. So the first one is going to be, I think it's the kitchen light. So let me use this, and there is going to be a status, and then we would have a state, which is, and both of these are going to be integers. So that's it. And actually I want to use the same for the second one. And that's going to be the living room light. And then the third one is going to be the presence. Yeah, so it also has state and the well, status and a state. And I also need a duplicate, and also we need to wire everything over. So this goes here, this goes to duplicate check, this goes here, and this goes to duplicate check. I mean, I think for these two I wouldn't need a duplicate check. For some reason I need it for presence, but you know, for the sake of completeness and just to be consistent, I think I'm going to use this. So let's look at how all this looks like. So let me change the living room light. Okay, yeah, we got this from here, but then object the device data, living room light, and status 0, state 0. So state, yeah, I just turned it off. Okay, this looks good. And if I change the vacation, I'm only getting one message. And that's the presence. And yeah, status 2, because 0, 1, and 2. Okay, I think we have done enough debugging, so whatever comes out we can just send directly into the the influx node. Okay, and that's it. I'm going to deploy the changes, and I can delete or I can just turn this one off as well. And if I start playing around with the lines, and I turn this one to home, and I'm going to turn on the kitchen light, and now if we go to InfluxDB and then if we refresh, we should be able to see that maybe I need to refresh like that. Tap home. Okay, yeah, we can see the different lights as well. And oh, sorry, living room light. Yeah, let's look at the raw data because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Oh, okay, so we have we have a why we have a state as 0.5. Oh, okay, we did an average. Yeah, I don't need to do that here. So let me just create the average. Okay, looks much better. Rookie mistake. I was getting a little bit worried. I thought I have messed up the conversion again. And actually, I think I'm going to pause the video here because it doesn't make sense to do start reporting unless we have at least a couple of days of data, at least for the temperatures, because yeah, otherwise our graphs are going to look pretty bad. But at least you can see how the information goes in from Node-RED into InfluxDB, and then the next stage is going to be just to display all this information in Grafana. So a couple of days have passed, and if I check the database, I should have some data available already. So it's in the Taphome bucket, and the measurement is called device data, and then we can see the devices. Let's look at both of the temperatures, and then if I do that for the last 24 hours, yes, we have some data. And if I zoom out to 7 days, yeah, we have some data. So anyway, there is some data that we can work with. So I think we can, you know, start looking at the Grafana dashboard. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new dashboard for this. So, I mean, I already have the database connection set up, so I'm not going to spend time on that. But anyway, I've covered that in a separate video. So if I do dashboard, well, a new dashboard, I can start with a new panel. And I just like to just use InfluxDB for the data selection. So I think what I'm going to use is I'm just going to look at this thermostat, maybe also use the set temperature and the temperature as well. So if I do this, okay, I haven't modified the set temperature, so that's going to be a solid line, but then I have the temperature here. So if I change the script editor, then I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the aggregate window out, and I'm just going to copy this into Grafana dashboard. So that's going to be my selection. Okay, there is not an awful lot for the last 6 hours, but if I do go the last 2 days, yeah, so we have some data. So that's going to be the backup thermostat, and yeah, I don't think I'm going to change anything here. Yeah, so I have, yeah, maybe I can just make this a little bit nicer. So in the overrides, I'm going to pick the fields that I'm going to use. So I have a temperature, which I'm going to give a name at the property. So display name is going to be room temperature, and the unit is going to be Celsius, temperature Celsius. Okay, that's good. And I do another override, and that's going to be the set temperature. So the name is going to be set temp. Okay, and then the unit is also going to be Celsius. So okay, that's good. So I have units here, and I have the legend showing that correctly. So we don't have technical names, and I think that looks good. And I'm probably going to make this full screen. So that is always going to show me the history. Maybe I can just call this temperature history. Oh yeah, I have something like that from the past. Okay, that looks good. So maybe I can create a simple graph. Sorry, not a graph, but some panel time. Statistics of what has happened. And I think what I'm going to use, I'm just going to use InfluxDB to return the maximum value. I could do this in Grafana as well, but I think it makes sense to do it in Influx. Okay, and I only need the temperature. So this is going to be a value, and I mean, well, it's only going to be one single temperature, so I can just leave it on numeric fields because there's always going to be just one. And so the text size and then the unit is, that's going to be temperature Celsius as well. And this panel is going to be max temperature. Okay, probably I can make this smaller, and I can duplicate this one as well. And that would be my minimum temperature. So the function here is going to be min, and that's going to be min. Yeah, the temperature doesn't change an awful lot in the, well, this is in the garage at the moment. So yeah, and if I go to the last 7 days, yeah, oh, that was it. Can I go any further? Yeah, well, I don't really have any more data. Okay, so maybe I have for the last 7 days. So maximum was 90 degrees and the minimum was 12 degrees. So that looks good. And yeah, you can always zoom in. So you see now a subset which, you know, in between these specific times. And let's go back to 7 days. So that's all about the, you know, the temperatures type of data. And maybe what I can do is see what I can do with some of the other information. So if I go back to the query builder, let's see if I want to. So, okay, we do have a presence. I thought I have done something more, like one of the lights, but no, I think I already done the presence. Or maybe I haven't changed the lights at all. So let me just check, because actually since I done the video, quite a few days have passed and I just don't remember what I have done. So let me open Node-RED, and if I just search for my flow. Well, first of all, let's wait until this opens. And it is really slow. Okay, so this is the type of the device. 0, 1, and 2. Okay. Yeah, so I have done 2 lights as well. So let me just open Taphome, because I'm pretty sure that it's going to be there. And maybe I just need to change some lights, so we can see that that is getting stored in the database as well. Okay, because I think, I mean, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to show the temperature on the, or let's say, sorry, not temperature, but a light on a dashboard. But maybe what we can do is we can calculate, let's say, how many times something has changed. Okay, so I was playing around with the lights, and if I just refresh, okay, now I just have presence. Doesn't matter. So the present state, I have one single value. So if I just look at the, yeah. And again, I don't need the average here. This is why it is showing me this value. Okay, so I had 0 and 1. Okay, so I was making some changes as well. I was changing the presence over. So I thought maybe what we can do is, you know, we can, I mean, just like with a light, you can maybe measure how much the light was set to a certain status, like how much it was turned on. I mean, I know at home it's not really a used case, but let's say in an industrial application, if you have like a pump, then you might want to measure how much it was turned on, because, you know, that could relate to maintenance window, that sort of stuff. So let's say we want to see how many times the state has changed to 1, which is away. So how many times we were away within that period. And so what we can do is we can do a count. So that so we will use the function count, which is going to just count how many times we have these filter occurrence. So that's only 1 now. So I can go back to Taphome, and well, that's going to be another panel value as well. So that's going to be my away count. And well, I don't really have to set anything here because it doesn't have a unit. So I think I'm just going to leave it as that. And I'm going to make it the same size, oops, the same size as the others. So I can just move it here and I can save it. And yeah, so now if I go to my Taphome and I switch it away, then if I refresh, then now it turns to 2. And if I go home, then of course, well, it stays 2 because it just counts how many times I've gone into away. But you can do the same with the lights as well. So you can count how many times the light got switched on. Again, if you're interested in, like, you know, how frequently something gets used. And of course, the sky is the limit, you know, how deep you can go into also the InfluxDB and Grafana and what sort of visuals that you want to create. I just wanted to create something very simple. I was mainly focusing on the integration, how the data flows through from the Taphome into Node-RED, into InfluxDB, and then Grafana. So you can certainly enhance any of the parts in this whole process or this whole solution. So you can make this dashboard more rich and, of course, focus on the things that you are interested in. So I think that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.